Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chamber University, where we continue business education. Our hope with this program is to not only provide you with valuable information to grow your business, but to grow your business network as well. Our guest today is a farmer, has been his whole life, so he's no stranger to the sun up, sun down, sweat and grind of the daily farm life, but he's also a financial advisor. Does succession planning, legacy planning, and a little bit of stock portfolio management. Please welcome Eric Brown.
Nice to see you, my friend. Good to see you.
Thank you for being here. So, I think a good place to start is, how does that transition happen? A lot of the farmers that I grew up around, they'd be the last people I'd expect to be into stocks, trading, anything to do with the finances. They're so inundated with, is it going to rain today? Is it going to rain again next week? How did that transition even happen? Let me know that.
Well, this is kind of a funny story. Do you remember or have you ever heard of Albright Turkey Farms?
Yeah, I actually lived there for a short period of time.
No kidding, yes. Yeah. So on State Route 61, it was owned by Dick Albright.
Yes.
And my dad didn't think I worked hard enough on our farm, so I also had to go work on other people's farms too. So I got a job. I think when I started somewhere in that 13, 14-year-old range, I'd go down, feed the turkeys, water the turkeys, pitch manure, all that good, high, extra educational stuff.
Right.
But here's the cool thing. I walked in the day that my dad had set up an interview for me with Mr. Albright. I went in and talked to Dick Albright. And again, we're talking 1983, 84. I mean, you weren't even, in the cosmos yet at this time.
Not yet.
And set up an interview. I walk in the office, and no kidding, there were computer screens everywhere. Now this, again, mid-'80s. How many computer screens even existed at that point?
Wow.
So I'm just like enamored with all that he had going on there. And I asked him, so what in the heck are you doing here? What's going on? And he says, well, I'll tell you what, let's get you punched in. We'll sit down and we'll chat about it. And that truly started my love of stocks, commodities, investing, the math involved, the psychology involved, all started at age 13 or 14 with Mr. Albright. So from that point forward, all the way through my sophomore year in college, every day I would go punch in, sit down, and for 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, depending on the active trading day, we would sit down and he would tell me his successes, his failures, what positions he was watching, why he all of a sudden had to write a big check and send it to the broker because he was wrong.
Wow.
And really got into the true mechanics of trading. And from that point forward, I originally, at that age, had a goal of going to Chicago Board of Trade and being a floor trader.
Wow.
The excitement, the adrenaline, the craziness, the amount of money that was being traded. But that truly started my love of money. And not money as in I have a lot of money and I'm rich, or I can buy lots of stuff or do lots of things. It was in money as a methodology to hedge risk, to keep score, and the velocity of how fast money moved between people, between businesses, between industries, between countries. It just became fascinating to me. And that truly started the transition of being this double life, this black and white that I've lived my entire life of farmer / financial guy.
That's incredible, and that is really fascinating to me. So, how do you think the work ethic of working on multiple farms? I mean, that stuff is no joke. I actually worked on that same turkey farm. I mean, that is like work. You know what I mean? It really is. And so how do you think that transferred into the financial life? I mean, you might not be carrying heavy things or working heavy machinery with the financial advisor field, but how do you think that work ethic carried over? Do you think it played a role?
Well, there's absolutely no question. In fact, I even talked to my kids about this. And this is not parenting advice that maybe everybody should follow. But I told my kids, and I've told my kids all along, that these days, all you have to do is show up, be on time, be able to pass some type of a drug test, and be mediocre. And you're better than just about everybody else in the workforce. And I look back to my roots, to my mom and dad, their work ethic. I know the blood, sweat, and tears that went into growing and creating a life for my sister and I. I saw how many hours we worked. My dad never worked just construction. My dad never was just a farmer. My dad never was just trying to start a trucking company. All these things always happened simultaneously because there were so many interests and so many loves and so many joys. There's enough hours in the day, I can outwork it and I can make them all successful. So taking that farm work ethic and putting it into an industry that is, pretty much typically a 9-to-5 job for a lot of people.
Right.
Sitting behind the desk, clients coming in to see them. I go the other way around. Don't wear a suit. I'm not an Armani money guy. I like to be me, authentic, real. I curse occasionally.
You're doing great so far, though.
Yeah, so far there's been no
yet.
slips, but 15 minutes in, we're not gonna go there. But the whole methodology is I'll outwork everybody. There's no customer too far that I won't drive and go see. If a family business or a family farm is in trouble and needs some, I will move mountains to try to help them and save them. Just because, from that early DNA, the stuff that was instilled in us, was that if you do the right thing enough times and you keep hitting the rock with the hammer, sooner or later you're going to break through. I did this famous line, from Thoreau. I always talk about how famous and philosophical he was. Or you look at Descartes or any of these, Tecumseh, Seneca, any of these people that are great philosophers. And I said, you know what? I think my grandfather and my dad were equally as good of philosophers, even though they didn't say any pretty words together. The answer always was, if you don't feel good today, go to work. If you don't have enough money, go to work. If you see no end in sight, you see no hope, go to work. The answer always was that there was nothing that you couldn't work through or outwork and solve the situation. So that's a long answer and a big, huge oratory on your little simple question. But that is so lacking today in just about every industry. The place that I see it still is right up here down on Main Street.
Yeah.
Our small chamber members, our mom and pop businesses, that a lot of them are multi-generational. These people leave everything they have in the business every single day. I mean, how much more inspiring can you get? It's so fun and so exciting and so informational to sit down and watch a family work. Watch the things that have made their family business great. And it's also the motivation behind helping a lot of those businesses, because a lot of the things that the prior generations have done isn't translating today. So that work ethic, that good homegrown Norwalk, Ohio, rural Monroeville, Ohio work ethic, I have nothing but respect for. And that is definitely not necessarily a secret sauce to success, but if you have that, you have 75%, you're 75% of the way there to being able to accomplish anything that you have on your wish list.
Yeah, that's that 80-20 rule. Sure. And it applies itself over and over again. But what I find really interesting is it's not always sunshine and rainbows for these small businesses. They hit these financial troubles. They hit these hard times, the ups and downs. Maybe the client base shifts, or maybe they're just in a bad location. But in some of our preliminary talks, if you will, you had mentioned that it's almost always people stuff. Mm-hmm. No matter what the financials are, the stock market, the economy overall, it always, if a business is in trouble, chances are it's something to do with people. And illuminate that a little bit for me. Like, what have you seen when these people get themselves into trouble, or they find themselves in trouble? What does that mean to you when it's people stuff?
Well, typically speaking, this is what you see when you walk in. I am so blessed to get called a lot by a small business, by a family farm, when there's some type of crisis, or they see the writing on the wall. They see that, oh my gosh, we have to do something, or what the last 3 generations have worked for is not going to make it to the next. A lot of times what happens is we're proud people, very proud. We take everything that we do very serious, and we've built our reputation and our life on being able to solve our own problems, being able to handle everything, being the person that knows best about our individual business and what our situation is. And what I noticed in my life, any bound of wisdom or inspiration I provide is because I got my ass kicked at some point. Simple as that.
Yeah.
I haven't learned anything the easy way. I am the old 2x4 to the back of the head educational program kind of guy. So when I say this, I'm speaking from experience, not just from what I've seen, but what I've lived. Is when there's a crisis, we all kind of internalize and close ranks. And we're embarrassed. We don't want to talk to anybody because we feel like a failure. You know, how did Grandpa build this business up and he never struggled? Little do they know that Grandpa, worried and couldn't sleep every night because he couldn't take a paycheck, but he paid his employees and took care of them.
Right.
So we always keep it inside and don't ask for help. There's a lot of interfamily dynamics between grandfather, father and mother, child, all working in the same business, all part of it, and everybody's work ethic's a little different. Everybody's idea of what work means is a little bit different. And 9 times out of 10, and this is no lie, that's no exaggeration, the problems may present themselves as monetary, but usually the cause, the symptom, the core reason why there's a financial problem is associated with the people in some way. And I can talk to any business out there that if they're struggling today, a phone call to you guys anonymously, you're not going to tell anybody somebody called to ask for help.
Right.
And I guarantee you could put them in touch with people that have expertise in their individual situation or where their pinch point's at that could make a difference for them immediately. You know how I know? About 14 years I had to make a phone call. And I called the chamber office and I got assistance that I had waited over a year to make the phone call to get. So I know that works. I know this is a trusted resource here that we're blessed to have.
Yeah.
That you just have to make sure you use it.
It's a network, and that's the thing with expertise and mentorship. I mean, even though it might not be a formal mentorship, if you're struggling, there are people out there who have been through something very similar, even if they're in a completely different industry.
Absolutely.
So experience is key, and that's a little bit of what you do with the Land is Your Legacy. So I'm curious to see when you're helping people set these succession planning things up. Like it kind of blows my mind how in such an unpredictable market and economy, how do you give people that strength to look forward when the right now is so insane? Like, is there a secret to that, or is it more just kind of bolstering their confidence about it? Because you never really know where the economy is going to go. The workforce changes, the economy changes. What's the secret there? How do you help people plan a legacy or succession like that?
Well, just to be specific, Land is Your Legacy is an initiative that was started by Nationwide and its board of directors. My gosh, it's probably been about 10 years ago now.
Okay.
Nationwide's still wholly driven by farmers yet as board members. So still has a connection to the rural roots and stuff of most communities, in the country. But farming, as is mom and pop business owners, that average age of ownership every year keeps creeping up, like 1.2 years per year increases. So all of a sudden, where's all the wealth at? Where's all the land held? Where it's in that older generation that continually every day is getting older and older and older. So Nationwide saw this issue going, sooner or later, all this assets have to transition to somebody. And as of today, it's all going to go through probate court. It's all going to be fought by siblings and kids. People are going to lose their businesses, their farms that they've worked their whole life for. So I've been all over the country, which has been fun, been a blessing. Nothing better than going out and sitting down with a fellow farmer and being able to learn their history. So appreciate hearing the stories of things that they've overcome, successes, failures, family tragedies. And these are the most resilient, hardworking, dedicated. I mean, they are a force of nature. Our country, our world keeps asking more of them. And they never cease to amaze me. They keep producing, keep fighting, keep going forward. You can't crush them. It's not going to happen. And our small businesses are that way as well. They'll work through anything. It doesn't matter. There's an end game. We're going to get there one way or the other. You tell me to go this far, I'm going to go farther. That's the mentality of these people. And we get pretty in-depth. I ask them for everything. Tax returns, prior created legal documents, trust, LLCs, operating agreements. investment statements, a whole family history. And then I try to sit down with not only mom and dad, but maybe grandma and grandpa, and maybe son and daughter, and find out the whole story. And then we have what's called in Columbus an advanced consulting group, a bunch of attorneys, former IRS people, income planning specialists, long-term care planning specialists. They also take a look at the entire situation and create a formalized financial plan. And kind of the secret sauce to the whole thing that makes that work is we stay involved, I stay involved. I go to the attorney meetings with the clients to make sure it happens. So follow through and implementation actually happen. But to sit down and try to forecast what's going to happen 5, 10, 15 years in this environment, in the world that we have today, all but impossible.
Right.
All we can do is get the mechanism in place, the structure in place, a plan in place.
Right.
With what we know today that sets ourselves up for the best chance of success down the road. Knowing that, heck, every 2 years we may be manipulating it a little bit, amending it a little bit, adjusting it a little bit on the fly. It's never done. A plan for a small business, never done. Plan for a family farm, never done. It's a work in motion. It's a fluid situation where we're constantly taking care of little details, making little changes. The thing that I find that has been the most fun, the most rewarding to me, is being able to gain the trust of the families by being able to tell them my failures, my successes, what's happened in my family, so that they trust me with the big hairy elephant that's in the corner of every family's room. I get to hear about it. And then I can help them make a good business decision, get themselves out of their own way so they can do what's right for their family. Because again, I know what my parents went through to get to where they were at. The whole idea of leaving that to chance and winging it makes no sense to me. They've already paid too big of a price.
That's right. I mean, and that makes so much sense to me, even on a personal level. Even if I'm just a person, I don't own a business or a farm or anything like that. Having a plan for your life is crucial. So, I mean, why wouldn't you want that for your business? I mean, are you ever surprised at I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot at this point, but how often do you go into a situation where there's just no plan whatsoever?
That's probably a solid 60 to 70% of the time.
Interesting.
Again, it's back to that thing that we've talked about 2 or 3 times now. The industries that farming, small business, again, are proud, do it ourselves, they automatically are suspicious of the legal process, IRS and tax issues, that dealing with them, they'd rather go back to work in their business and fix the motor, cut the hair, pump the gas, whatever their business is. They'd rather be doing that than dealing with all that other stuff. And we know how small business is today. It is a 24/7, 365 promise that you're going to keep to all your clients. So to sit down and allocate that time to put together that strategic plan, it's almost becoming today, it's not a choice now. It is mandatory, meaning that if you don't, you're a coin flip away from having everything that you've worked for, everything that you sacrificed Sunday afternoons with your kids for, everything that you skipped this and missed that and did this and didn't buy this for yourself so you could do, all that was a waste. It's so critical to take the time to get those things done right.
That is so huge. I mean, I relate to that. I know there's a lot of people who are going to watch this that relate to that, where you have made so many sacrifices for a business or maybe a business partner. And if you don't have that plan, it all is for naught. So we could keep going for hours and hours. I hope everyone stays tuned in for this. This is like golden nuggets of truth and information. So I really appreciate you being here. So one thing that I'm really curious about is maybe on a more personal level. We talk about being prideful. We talk about being very invested into our business and not really feeling comfortable talking with other people. But say you are up against a wall, what in your experience, what kept you going through? When you're up against the wall, you feel like this could be the end. what kept you going? You said you waited a whole year to make that
Mhm.
phone call to the chamber, but in that year interim, there had to be some kind of daily dialogue in your mind. What did you do to keep going? Was there a ritual that you had, a routine, maybe a phrase or a mantra that you said that kept you going? So
I
that
can't
you were,
say that out loud now in this. The mantra I use could not be appropriate for family consumption.
I can't bleep it out. I'll do a little.
Yeah, there you go. No, seriously. Again, that year and a half maybe even is kind of like a blur now. I still have the scars. I still remember a lot of the moments. And truly what kept me going and kept me pushing was the fear of letting my parents down, my family down, people that I worked with down. That was just a total, if there's something that scared, and I'm not scared of a whole lot, but if there's something that scares the crap out of me, it's being not enough. It's have given my best and coming up short. It's have being making a promise and not fulfilling it. Even if the promise wasn't verbalized, it was just assumed. That pride and that fear of failure, so to speak, definitely was my motivating factor going to get through every single day. But I look back now and I'm like, what an idiot. I mean, how dumb can you be? And now, again, I find myself, if there's a certain problem I'm having within a business or on a particular case or with a particular family, where I'm still sitting down and bashing my head against the wall trying to think it out myself, find the intellectual solution that only I can come up with. And I still struggle today with reaching out, going to sources that have a little different perspective than my own to see if I can find a way to solve the problem. If I could go back and do it over again, I can honestly say I'm so stupid I wouldn't change a thing. Because I fear today that everything that I bring or provide value to a client or to a family was because I came to as close to failure. I saw its face, I saw what it looked like, actually could smell it and taste it, and then walked away and survived. And it's that experience going through, if I think if I cut it off one day shorter, I would call it one day sooner, it would change maybe the impact. I wouldn't have gone through the internal process that I had to go through to break down the ego, to finally say, okay, I can't do it myself. I can't fix it alone. I think one day shorter, a little bit easier, I couldn't provide any of that value to the businesses that I do help or the farms that I do help.
That's mind-blowing stuff, right? Again, that's just like... So I think almost what you're saying, it's like redirecting the pride. So if you have that pride of, I really don't want anyone to know, I don't want anyone to see that I'm failing, there's this, but if you redirect the pride almost to where like, I'm not going to fail, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to not fail, even if that means kind of exposing some of the weaknesses that I may have or that my business has. So our tech back there is worrying me. So we're good?
You're fine.
Still
Okay,
fine?
You're great.
Grab one little sip of water.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's take a little sip break. So
It did turn off, but it's fine.
Is it going okay for you?
We're good. Yeah.
Okay.
No, you guys are great. It's a great
was it
combo.
still recording when you looked at it?
It is now.
Oh, it stopped recording.
Yeah, but it was recording when Hallie came in, so it would have only been within that time frame that it stopped recording,
Oh, okay.
and only on this one.
That's cool. I think we should keep this in. This is transparency right here, folks.
Yeah, no, this one's.
we're a two-man crew over here. So
This proved that there was no rehearsal.
No. Yeah, absolutely.
This is
You're
not
getting-
edited. This
You're
is
getting
raw.
all the ugly blemishes.
Yep, it's raw, and I
Yeah.
think that's authentic. So
It's amazing.
all right, so we'll wrap it up. I don't even know how long we've been going. It feels like 5 minutes, but we could be, So to keep it brief, I'm really curious to see, where do you project? I'm such a noob with stocks. I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. I've looked into Ray Dalio, Tom Bilyeu, Gary Vee. There's all these guys that are big players in the money game that they make such big, bold moves. So if in the last thing, what we'll do here is if you had one suggestion for someone who's a complete rookie with managing any kind of portfolio, or maybe they don't even have a portfolio, what would be the first thing you would tell them? What's step number one?
Well, number one, no matter what, is first of all, we can't give investment advice in a platform like this, so I'm not going to jail. I'm too pretty for it.
Okay. You do have great hair.
Yeah, there you go. Whatever.
You tell you're married to a stylist.
Yeah.
Oh, no. You're related to a stylist.
Yes, related.
Hey,
yes.
I grew up with that family, so.
But no, there is a couple good answers to that question, though, that they're totally compliant and very sanitized for everybody's consumption. First of all, no matter what, I would invest in myself first. So before you start talking about stocks and bonds and annuities and life insurance and all that stuff, investing in yourself and your own personal development is, to me, the highest rate of return of any dollar that you could ever invest. That $20 book, that $1,500 class, that free podcast, whatever it is that you can do to consume to make yourself better, to broaden your scope, to sharpen the tools that you need every day in your business or in your career, that is the place that I would invest first. And I'm telling you this, this is 100% accurate. The only way to learn how to invest is to do it. I encourage a lot of my kids, other kids, or whatever, to invest on paper first. Start looking at things that you own, that you are familiar with, that you believe in, and start tracking them on paper before you put any money at risk. And see if how you see the market is correct. Everything that I've learned about investing, about money, there was classes and licensing and all that stuff, but it's a constant daily consumption of information, of education. Always looking for the edge, always looking for that thing that nobody else has thought of. But in words of Dick Albright, since we're going to make the end back to the beginning, is he always told me that you can get all fancy. You can, they're talking about these computers and digesting numbers. That's great. He says, but in the end, the basics always still work. Have a budget. Spend less than you make. Donate 10% of your money to your church or to civic organizations or your town, to charities. And then invest another 10% as long as you work. That's what he told me back in 1983, 1984, and done my best to try to accomplish that. But again, life happens. Life happens.
Yes, it does.
And another thing before we wrap up that I think is important to bring out is that, I appreciate this opportunity. I want to acknowledge you for a second. Sitting down here and being able to have a conversation, and of course the conversations that have happened prior to this, very impressed with the depth of knowledge and experience that you already have at your young age. And I see it in Kelly as well. So it's very exciting to me to see the new ideas, the fresh concepts, and the different perspective coming in to help shape the future of our Chamber of Commerce. And any business out there that has a need needs to pick up the phone, needs to make a phone call. And hey, just tell you guys, I don't want everybody knowing this, but is there somebody that could help me through this situation? Is there somebody that has this that I need? Make that phone call. One thing that I've definitely learned in any civic organization I've ever been part of is that I only get out what I put in. So if I'm not asking, if I'm not showing up, if I'm not attending, if I'm not participating, and I expect to get a rate of return, I'm absolutely stupid. So again, you got to participate, you got to call, you have to be present, and then the rate of return will take care of itself. It always does.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Eric, so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you were paying attention. I think the lesson today is invest in yourself. If you're a business owner, if you own a farm, no matter what it is you find yourself doing, buy that book, ask for that advice, listen to that podcast, seek advice outside of the realm of yourself, and watch as the growth happens. And growth can be painful, but it's always welcome and encouraged. Thank you for the kind words. We're doing our best here. We're always hoping to grow forward. So thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. This has been Chamber University, continuing business education. We'll see you around the bend. And as I always say, toodaloo.